in a way, every game in the top flight was memorable. But here's a few, and give us a few stories. So first one, Aston Villa, opening day of the season. They've won the title the previous season. They've run round the pitch with the trophy, which was clearly a major tactical error, as when I was at Leicester, Alan Evans, who was the captain of Villa, we used to chat and laugh about it because Villa had won the league title away from home at the end of the previous season. So someone had decided they could parade the trophy in front of their fans for the first time at a game before the home game with Notts, which clearly is going to wind you up a little bit. And a set piece corner, you get the winner from Paul Hooks. A set piece corner that Gareth Southgate got quite a lot of acclaim for using this technique or tactic, if you like, during the World Cup 2 years ago. They called it the love train. But basically, this was one of Howard's set-piece routines from which you scored the winning goal, wasn't it?
Well, that was where Howard worked a lot in set pieces, free kicks, corners. Worked a lot in set pieces. But from a personal point of view, when we turned up at Aston Villa, we didn't treat it as any different and just another game. It was just another game. Yeah, we're in the first division, euphoria. You get to the ground and Jesus Christ, it's unbelievable. You know what I mean? You say to yourself, what's happening here? Then you get and the crowd are up, and then the parade in this cup and that cup. But I always remember saying to myself on that day that these are no any better than us. These players individually are no any better than what we've got. And that was the thing that stuck in my mind is regarding you're going into the first division. But you could easily succumb and say, well, going in there, get into the Lions' Den or whatever. They've won this, they've won that. But at the same time, they're all human beings. The grass is green, the lines are white, the posts are white. Same doesn't matter where you are. You know what I mean? You're still playing in grass. And you're still playing against 11 human beings. And it's up to you to enjoy it and go and get the most out of what you can get. And that was a big thing for me in the sense of I thought to myself, they're no any better than what I am. And that was the thing that spurred me on, really. And then you look, and Annie, Brady was having heroics. He was thinking and everything and frustrating Big Withy, and Withy was going nuts. And that's what gets to them. You know what I mean? And then little Chidozie was threatening him with his pace and killing him with his pace and that. And they're all getting afraid. And they're all like, wait a minute, who are these? Who are these? And all of a sudden, they've got to start taking respect, give you a bit of respect. Whereas I don't think we had the respect. You've got to earn the respect. I don't think they gave us the respect that we deserved. And at the end of the day, they got beat for it, and that was it, basically. But we worked. I've never felt so tired after a game in all my life in that game because we worked and we worked and we worked and we worked hard, and we weren't going to get beat. And when we got the goal, the whole thing came together in the sense of you say to yourself, right, when we're going to get beat. And that was when that's what I'm talking about, coming together and doing a job and just doing what you're paid to do. That's your job. You do that, and do it to the best of your ability. And Big Killer, do that job. That's it. Pedro, do that job. Benji, do that job. Different. You know what I mean? And everybody stuck to the task. Raymond, bump, get it in the back of them, make them run, turn them. And then with the change, because with the bring Rash on for Goody or something.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the day, you say, even how they change, doesn't matter. But you're only allowed one sub in the days. So you cannot change a great deal. And you're all like on the last 10 minutes, it was absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're all on your last thing, mate. But that was where the fitness levels come in. And that was where I said to myself, geez, well, the fitness level of this is a lot higher. So you've got to become better. You've got to get better. You've got to get stronger. And that's what me personally, that's only a personal thing, that you've got to get better, right? You've got to do this, you've got to do that. And that's where the strength comes into it. And the strength of mind when you're playing against these players, because these are all internationals. I think every one of them is an international. You know what I mean? So that's what you got to do. That's what you got to do. And that was great because, I mean, at the end of the day, the feeling you get after a win like that was and then we played somebody midweek, didn't we? We're not top of the league or something.
Yeah.
For a week.
Manchester City.
Yeah, for a week. But at the end of the day, Individual-wise, every player had his job to do, and they did it to the best of their ability on that day, and that was what got us through, you know. And as I say, I think we finished mid-table that season. We lost some games, won good game, but the likes of you still, doesn't matter who you are, you still feel a little bit when you go to the likes of the Man Uniteds and you go into Old Trafford, you go into the likes of Liverpool, a bit inhibited. You go into your share a little bit. We went to Liverpool, you beat 5. You never perform, you know, because mentally, you know, up there mentally, it gets to you. It does. I don't care what anybody says. It gets to you. You've got to be very, very special for it not to get to you. You know what I mean? Because it is a rude awakening when you go to these, and you say to these people play at that level every week, and you're saying to yourself, Jesus Christ, that's what you strive to be. And that was Masson. That's what he strived to be. He was as good as them. He played at that level. He got to that level. You know what I mean? And that's what he was. And that's what it means to as a football player, as an individual. You've got to strive to try and get to that, to be in a team that's winning things and going to places where you're not inhibited by what's running about you, the surroundings and such like. You know, very difficult, but that's why it was.
Let's pick up another game. West Brom away, March, first season back in the top flight. You'd not scored a hat-trick for Notts, but you did that night. Won 4-2. You got 3 of them, including one of them from about 40 yards, if I remember, when you sailed it over the goalkeeper's head. But you kind of almost didn't play at all, did you, for that game? Because you were struggling. You got the flu, hadn't you?
Well, we trained in the morning and we got to West Brom. We got to the hotel at dinner time. We had a lot of lunch and then you go to bed. And it was all right then. But during the afternoon or whatever, I was absolutely soaking. My bed sheets were soaking and that. So straight on the phone to Jack when I woke up. Jack, I'm struggling. What? I said, oh, throat's sore, killing me. I'm sweating all over the place. Right. He said, I'll come and see you. So Jack comes along and sees. He says, right. Okay, I spoke to the boss. He says, just get ready and we'll see how you are when we get to the ground. I said, all right. So we get to the ground. Jimmy says, how are you? I says, I'm struggling, boss. I said, what do you mean? I says, look, my shirt was absolutely soaking. I said, I'm sweating, soaked. He said, don't worry about it. He says, give it 10 minutes. He says, we'll see how you are. I'm like, I was really, you know what I mean? And I wasn't like me to thing me, to lie down for it. But he just says, don't worry about it. He says, just go in and run it off. So I go, first half, I was absolutely awful. I was awful. I couldn't do it. We get beat 1-0. I was very lethargic. So I come in at half time and he goes, you got a problem? I says, fucking, I've told you. No. He says, give 5 minutes, go out and run it off. So we're getting beat 1-0. And then we get a goal for a corner and that. And all of a sudden things change. And then things start to move and start moving, playing. Everything's that. And the little fella wasn't there that night, I don't think he played then.
No, I don't think he did, no.
No, he was in America or something. Or he was injured. But anyway, it was that night where you say to yourself, Jesus Christ, I got the first one for a corner, but stooped and headed in. And then the next one was right foot, left foot. But at the end of the day, the way we played that night was the way we could play. Because all the players, even Gordon Mayer, Nightmare was on it. You know what I mean? And he got the fourth goal, I think, didn't he? I think he got the fourth goal that night. But yeah, as I say, these games, you've got to enjoy. This is what I'm saying to you, and this is where when I was coaching, doing the managing sort of thing, these players don't understand or realise that you've got to treat every game as if it's your last. Because it could be your last game. And if you go out there and play as if it's your last game, you'll enjoy it. And that's what you're there for. You're there to enjoy it. What's the point in going in there and moaning about this and moaning? And you hear them coming in and saying, oh, this, that, the next thing. And it used to really wind me up so many times when you used to come into the dressing room and what's this? And, look at the state of this. And but you're here. You're there. You're being picked to play. Go and play. You know what I mean? Some dressing rooms, you go to that crew and you couldn't even, Big Stubbs, you couldn't get his head underneath the thing, mate. but and they're moaning about this and moaning about that. I'm going, Jesus Christ, there's a lot of people worse off than yourself. You know what I mean? You're in a privileged position. Enjoy it, and embrace what you've got. And that was the big thing for me, was that I enjoyed every game. Some games I thought I was awful, but at the same time, you have days like that. You have days like that because that's just human nature. You know what I mean? But you try and treat every game as if it's your last, and that way you can progress. But enjoy it as you go along. Otherwise, it's pointless.
Games against Forest are always going to stick in the memory of supporters, and we did particularly well against Forest. First season, won 2-0 at City Ground after Raddy saved a penalty in the first half. That was a memorable one. And the second season at Meadow Lane, beat them 3-2. When you got sent off, and I think possibly the 3-2 edges it for me, but they're both both are in my top 5 all-time greatest ever Notts games. Talk to me a little bit about the 3-2, because you obviously got red, but there's a great story about Jimmy and fining you when he called you in on the Monday morning. So just talk to me a little bit about that Forest game, how you saw red, and then kind of how Jimmy dealt with you on the Monday.
Well, at the end of the day, it's all about me and goalkeepers. A love-hate relationship. Goalkeepers. And to be fair, I've got 2 or 3 of my best mates are goalkeepers. It's crazy, really. You know what I mean? But I always thought goalkeepers had a license to kill. They had a license. They could have killed someone in the pitch and got away with it.
Yeah.
Right? They would have found an excuse to get him. And at the end of the day, as soon as you touched them, they were squealing like pigs and everything. And at the end of the day, you say to yourself, that's no me sort of thing. At the end of the day, you give it, you take it, you get it back, whatever. Simple as that. But when we were playing that day, I always remember I've gone in to Sutton, the goalkeeper, and the ball's there to be won, right? The ball's there to be won, and I've just missed it, and I've caught him, and I've studied him doing his inside of his thigh, and he's rolling about squealing like a pig, and they're all jumping in and that. Whatever, big Wally Young and the right back who used to be at Villa. Anyway, they're all there, and Ronnie, him that used to be the manager at Notts, he was chirping away, he's chirping away and all that. And I'm like, listen, at the end of the day, the ball's there to be won. I've wanted to try and win it. I've missed it. I've misjudged it. Sorry. I hold my hands up. Right? No long after that, the goalkeeper shit it for Tommy's goal. Right? Yeah. We go to the third goal. So he shit it for a tackle. And that was what it was. So when I went in after the game, I got sent off because it was Brendan Gunn, actually, I got sent off for. And what it was the balls would played up the line, and I'm trying to bring the ball from outside in. And all I've done is tried to get it and come inside. And as I've came inside, I've missed it. And it looks as if I went to kick him because he's run past me and inside. But I've not touched him. And then he's fired the ball at me, so he's got me sent off. So that was my second booking. So when I got in after the game and that, and Jimmy says, right. So when he see him, he says, I'll see you Monday, son. I said, all right, boss. He says, just enjoy the moment, eh? Enjoy the moment, son. I'll see you Monday, eh? Okay. So, all right. So when I see him on Monday, and he goes, listen, he says, how are you? I says, I'm okay. He says, all right, good. He says, I will have to fine you, eh? Well, by the laws, he says, look, by the laws, he says, I've got to fine you 2 weeks' wages. I says, aye, okay, boss. He says, but listen, I will only fine you 1, he says, because you won us the game. And this is the way Jimmy was. And this is the way his mentality worked. And this is the way he thought. He says, because you've done the goalkeeper, son, we've scored the winning goal, that'll do me. See, thank you very much. Bye-bye. And that was him. That was him. That was how he was. And that was it. See you, son. Bye-bye. Away you go. And that's you. When I first went down, the best bit of advice I got from Masson was, if you ever want to know anything, end of every season, go and see Jimmy. Just say to him before the end of the season, can I have a word with you, boss? Right. And he goes, right. So at the end of every season, I used to go to Jimmy, boss, can I see you tomorrow? She says, yeah, come in at such and such a time, son. All right. So I'd get it maybe 11 o'clock with a day off or whatever. I'd still be there at 4 o'clock in his office. Absolutely unbelievable. You know what I mean? And it was all talking football, football, football. And he would bring through a cup of tea, 2 cups of tea or whatever, and they'd like the lassie to bring the cup of tea in. And you'd sat there for 3-4 hours just talking football. His knowledge of junior football in Scotland was second to none. Second to none. Every player, every team. And that's where he's looking for. He's always looking for bargains. He's always looking for the bargains because he could improve them. And this is the difference to a lot of people nowadays. People just sign players for the sake of signing them because of their pedigree or whatever. But you've got to make them better. If you're not going to make them better than what you've got, what's the point in signing them? And he had a limited budget, so that was his route to do it. And he could do that, whereas Howard, he could do that, but he could do that in a more organised way, you know. But Jimmy, in an individual way, he always made players better because of the way he spoke to them, because of the way he treated them, because of the way he trained them, because of the way he done things with them. And it always felt as if you're improving. I always felt as if I was improving every year. You know what I mean? And that was the big thing from my point of view, where Jimmy helped me. And that was the best bit, as I say, advice that I'd ever had from him. Asking, go and see Jimmy, go and see him, just go and speak to him. Because that's what he did. And that's where he came to, and that's where he got to. And that was what I was striving for. I wasn't going to get to his level, but at the same time, you've got to strive together, you know what I mean? And that was a big thing from my point of view.
At something like the age of, I think it may have been 28, you got called up by Scotland, didn't you? And Jimmy and Howard both went up to watch you, didn't they? And I think Howard.
No, well, Howard was involved in England under 21s then.
Yeah.
So Jimmy took us up after the game on the Saturday. We played Stoke on the Saturday at home, and then Jimmy took us up. He took me up to training. He dropped Howard off. Don't know where they were training. But anyway, no, I'm telling a lie. It was just me. Howard had made other arrangements because England were still staying, and thing with the game was on the Monday night. So Jimmy to take me up to train on the Saturday. So he took me straight up after the game.
Drove you all the way up to Scotland for your Scotland cap, yeah?
Yeah, with Fox's gloves and mentioned his leather gloves.
I bet you wish you got the train, didn't you?
And his big merc. But I tell you what, now his pattern, his banter was second to none. You know what I mean? He was just, you had to just agree with everything he says, because if you didn't, Jesus Christ, he didn't half let rip. You know what I mean? Didn't matter where it was. For something when they didn't agree with him, it's like, bam. You know what I mean? That was just the way he was. He accepted it. He accepted it because of the way he was.
As a fan, Howard left after 2 years of keeping of mid-table finishes in the top flight, and to be honest, didn't really ever look too much like going down. We were steady. We were competing effectively. You know, we had a front. There is one for you. We had a front line, didn't we? Crikey, we had a front line of you, Trevor Christie, and Justin Fashanu. 3 strikers. I mean, what a lineup that is, you know.
And you to doze it back in that up.
And Chidozie. I mean, what attacking option? I doubt the club. You know, obviously we had Tommy Johnson with Mark Draper, Kevin Bartlett, but you know, you have there real top quality striking options. But it was kind of 2 from 3, wasn't it? And there were certain points when Trevor missed out a little bit, and there was also a time when you missed out a little bit under Larry, I think it was. As fans, I remember I was 19, and I kind of feared the worst the moment Howard left to go to Sheffield Wednesday, irrespective of who knocks appointed, because it was just such a difficult act to follow. Yes, Jimmy was still there, but the combination of Howard and Jimmy clearly was really tight and worked really well. As a player, did you kind of fear the worst, or did you think, no, we're going to be fine, we're going to keep going?
I never thought anything about it, to be honest with you.
No?
I was injured quite a bit that season.
That's
So
yeah.
I couldn't get involved as much as I'd like to, because I was always in the blooming training table. It done my head in, but that's part and parcel of the game. But from a Howard point of view, he proved it there. He kept us in the first division for 2 years, but never in any danger.
Yeah, exactly.
And that was testament to the man, because he knew exactly what players he had. The worst thing he did maybe was, no disrespect to Big Fash, but he brought Big Fash in, and Big Fash tried to disrupt it a little bit.
Really?
Because his attitude and such like. Great player, great fella, but he just sometimes got it into his head, didn't have to work. I mean, a great story in the sense of, we played Southampton at home midweek, and I've scored in the first half, winning 1-0, and then Shelton's the goalkeeper, and he gave the ball to the boy Holmes, the left back, and he threw the ball to Holmes, the left back. Well, me, Chidozi's in the left wing, I'm in the middle, and Fashion's nearer the left back. So he said to Justin, Justin, you go and close them down, I'll go back you up, and then Chidozi will come in, because that's how it worked. That's how we did it. The next thing, me and him are arguing, me and Fash are arguing, Chidozi's ran past the two guys to close the fullback down. You know what I mean? So I've lost it then. That's me done my head in, because at the end of the day, I'll work and run and work for anybody. But he was just being lazy. He was just being lazy, and he just says, I don't need to do that. And I'm not being disrespectful when I say this, because I had 3 fallouts with him in that time he was there. Every time he came the next day and apologised, because he knew he was in the wrong. But that wasn't the point. The point was that was his downfall for me, in the sense that he could not accept at that time what he had to do. But he came the next day and apologised. But it's too late then, because the game's gone. You know what I mean? And the once in training, the exact same. And the gaffer calls us in, so the twos are in. And to be fair, he just steps up. Boss says, nothing to do with him. He says, it's my fault. And Jimmy just says, on you go, son. And that was it. But that was the way he was. But Fash, he was a great lad. He was a great lad, don't get me wrong. But he just did this thing where, and that was his downfall, really. He scored that goal against Norwich, and he thought it was a world beater. But he didn't realise it. But when he worked, and when he did work, he was a handful, because his physique was second to none. But he just did this something that just says, nah, I'm not going to work tonight, and I'm not going to work today, and he just stroll about. You can't have that at that level. You can't have it at any level, basically, you know what I mean? But even at that level, and you just can't do it. And that's what got to me. That was my main gripe with him, in the sense of that, when you work, you're a great player, but you're not prepared to work all the time. And some people have got to realise that that's all they've got. You know what I mean? You've got to work. You've got to work and strive to become better. But he wasn't prepared to. He just thought it was all come to him. And a lot of it did just come to him. You know what I mean? But he would do things in the pitch, and you see yourself, and he's holding 3 of them off. You know what I mean? He's received the ball, and there's 3 of them running about him, and he's holding them all off because he's strength in that. And you say to yourself, why can you just do that every week? Game, week in, week out, but no. Then you try and speak to him and explain that, and yeah, you're right. But the next game would come along, and he'd just stroll about. And that was the big thing. And that was where it started going awry for me. You know what I mean? That's when, Howard brought him in, because we done England under 21s with Howard. And Howard brought him in for there. But as I say, that was where it started going awry for me, the club. Because they were getting away, they were taking it away from what the players that had got them there, what they were doing. They all had to do their job, they all had to work, they all had to know their job and work hard. But when that stopped, and that's when it started putting doubts in one or two's minds. You know what I mean? And then Howard left, and Larry was in charge, and it didn't get any better. No disrespect to Larry, you know what I mean?
It was, I think, irrespective of Larry or realistically whoever we might have been able to get in, it was always going to be a challenge in that 3rd season when we were ready.
Yeah, because I say what Howard had achieved with the players that he had at his disposal. That was the thing. Yeah. And it took somebody special to come in and do the same thing.
With Jack done it, when I spoke to Jack maintained that he always knew the club were going to struggle, even if Howard had stayed, because he was struggling with the financial side of things in terms of not getting gate revenue. The club was losing money. etc., etc. And he said to me that they kind of used the third year's money to spend on the second year, and so the third year was always going to be a problem anyway. Personally, I think. Well, question to you: if Howard hadn't moved and had stayed, because we were quite a young team at that point, if you remember, you know, players were early to mid 20s and developing. Do you think would have been all right for however long Howard was going to be there? Because Graham Taylor kind of built a dynasty at Watford against all the odds, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, it's very, very difficult to say, because that's how things have worked out. But you look at in the past, and you look at like past histories of clubs and how they've got into a transition period. And at the end of the day, as Jimmy always used to say, there's no point in bringing players in just for the sake of bringing them in. They've got to be better than what you've got. And Notts at that time weren't in a position to do that. They couldn't say, well, we'll go by him, because they never had, as you say, financially, they never had the monies to go and try and better that. But the same thing as well is they never had the scouting set up that Jimmy had, in the sense of, and Jimmy wasn't getting any younger, you know, to get out and get players. I mean, he used to leave on a Friday night to go and watch teams in Holland and come back Saturday for the game, then go back to Holland on the Saturday night and watch games. He was always watching players. That's how he got Raddy. You know what I mean? He's always watching players, always there. And when you happen to go at that sort of, I mean, I was talking to Charlie the other day, who's at Aston Villa, and he's watching players on a computer.
Why scout, whatever.
Personally, me personally, you can't. You know what I mean? And you say, how do you get a feeling for that player on a computer, on a screen? You can see him doing a run, doing a trick. You can do them all. You can all do tricks and all do this and that, the next thing. But what is the character like? What's the character like in the dressing room? But can he bring anything to the club? That's what you're looking at as well. You know what I mean? That's the big thing. So
this is probably not a great one to bring up, but it ties in with a point that you'd raised earlier about play every game like it could be your last. And so the season of relegation, playing Manchester United, I think we actually won the game 1-0, but no one really remembers the result, to be honest. You know, we beat Man U, but no one remembers the result. Everyone will talk about this particular game and say the injury to you, and mention Gary Bailey's name in terms of the collision. And we mentioned, you know, your relationship with goalkeepers earlier, and we've had quite a few observations, questions coming in from fans ahead of this interview. You know, James Cresswell says, do you wish, you know, you'd, inverted commas, done Gary Bailey before he did you in the collision with him? Stephen Orton, another big Notts fan, do you have any bad feeling towards Gary Bailey? Likewise, Andy Easom, that clash with Gary Bailey. How do you view all of that?
Well, the thing is, as I said to you, my relationship with goalkeepers is a love-hate relationship, because I always believed that there's a license to kill, as I said, because they could do anything and get away with it. They could come out and punch you, anything, get away with it.
Schumacher, German goalkeeper, the World Cup. Do you remember that around that time?
Yeah.
About 80.
Oh, but that was
French guy absolutely destroyed him, didn't he? Didn't get sent off.
No, scandalous, because goalkeepers get away with, as I say, murder. But in that particular game in the first half, I've gone through and Bailey's came out and he's came down at my feet and I've kicked the ball. Before he's got it, I've kicked the ball through his hands and scored, and it was disallowed. And he's squealing like a pig, going, this, that, and the next thing, what he's going to do. And that, to me, you say to yourself, I've went fairly for the ball, because he's gone down with his hands, and I've kicked the ball. Before he's got it, I've kicked the ball through his hands and past him and got round him and scored. But the referee disallowed it because he said I'd fouled him. And then he's mouthing away, I'm going to get you, like that other game, this, that, and the next thing. But in that game, when he's gone through, what a lot of people didn't realise was, I didn't know, the week before when we played at Wolves, the week before, and we drew 0-0. after that game, I couldn't put my shoes on after the game. My feet had swelled up. So I had to walk to the bus with no shoes on and that. And I had to see the doctor on the Monday, and I got a blood test on the Monday. And on that Saturday, I never trained up until the Thursday because I couldn't train because of my feet. So I never trained, and then I trained the Thursday and the Friday. And the doctor was supposed to come on the Friday to see me, but he says, I'll see you after the game on Saturday with the results of the blood tests. Right? So at that time, it wasn't known what I had, because I said I couldn't train all week, but I trained on the Thursday and the Friday. So on the Saturday, I mean, I felt okay. It was all right, no problem. But on the Saturday when I played, when I collided with Gary Bailey, when I've gone, it was just the way his knee was.
Yeah.
His position of his knee against my leg, and because I was through and I was going past him, and just clipped his knee, and that was it. And that's what broke my leg. But unbeknown to me, a week later, I was like stiff as a board. I couldn't move. I got arthritis, and that triggered. But that was what was coming from the week before. You know what I mean? From the blood test, which I didn't know. So how long in my career was going to be after that, I don't know anyway. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, but that was life, because then, as I said, I went into plaster for 6 months, and I was in plaster for 6 months, and it still hadn't healed, because all the good blood was going to wash my arthritis to try and heal that, because I started getting gold injections and that. Then I went again, and it still hadn't healed after 9 months, so I had to get a pin in it. I got a pin in it, still hadn't healed. So after a year, I had to get a bone graft. So that was that. But that's what it was. But that's part and parcel of life, isn't it? These things happen, and that's, you just go to spit it out and go home and accept it. But no, I've not got any remorse towards Gary Bailey or anything like that. No, he's as they do in football, it's all fair as love and war, as they say. But I say, from my point of view, yeah, it was tragic, but I had a great career. I could have been better, but at the same time, you've got what you've got. You live what you live, and that's it. What else can you do? You know what I mean? The way I look at it now is, I wake up in the morning, open my eyes, and I'm still breathing. That's the main thing. You know what I mean? You may enjoy it. That's why I've started doing this walking football now.
Have you?
Aye. I started that a couple of weeks ago. So I started that, and it was like, geez, well, it's not as easy as you think, you know that. It's not, because you can't, you know what I mean? I went the first day, I wasn't bad, then the second day I was awful. I'm like, geez, this is murder. And these boys are all over 60 and that, 50s and that. And I'm like, you can't run, you've got to walk, and this, that, and the next thing. It's unbelievable. But yeah, I really enjoyed that, getting back into it a little bit and that. You know what I mean? It's not bad.
It's taken off a bit now, because Notts have got a team, haven't they?
Yeah, well, as I say, that it's the Notts in the community that I'm doing it with, and the Wednesday and Saturdays.
That's
Saturday
it.
morning. So, but I'm not ready to jump up and play in the games or anything like that. I'm just taking it steady and just enjoying it. That's the main thing. You know what I mean?
And very much your time playing for Notts coincided with that great era for Notts, because after you suffered your injury and while you were trying to get back from it, one relegation to the second tier and another relegation to the third tier. Am I right in thinking, because there was a little bit of an exodus of Notts players, did you end up getting back fit enough to play at Kettering for a little while when the likes when Don was it? No. It
says that, but no. I got back and I got playing at Plessy, just at GPT Plessy, just in the amateur league, like, you know what I mean. And then I played for the Notts over 35s, which was great fun. With Notts and Forest players
combined.
I got back to that sort of standard, but I could never get back. I could never get back pro again, which is a shame. But that's, as I say, and I was only 29, so I was still quite young, really. I was looking for another contract at the end of that season. I had a year left, but I was looking. I never spoke about it, but I had a year left sort of thing. So obviously, with that Everton thing happening and this, that. But as I said, because you see, this is the ironic thing is, and this is what life's all about. you get things happen. Like that year, as I said, Everton, that was in the March. They get relegated at the end of March, beginning of April. Then all of a sudden there's an exodus of 7 or 8 players left.
Yeah.
Big Keller's going to Coventry, Nigel's going to Sheffield Wednesday, Chiedozi's going to go back to Spurs or whatever.
Yeah, Raddy went as well, didn't he? Yeah.
Raddy went, they all went. There's about 10, 9, 7 or 8 went. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, you cannot survive.
No.
As I said, when Howard came in and got the best out of the players they had, it would take somebody special to come back in and do the same thing again.
Yeah.
But he's filling it with players that are, no disrespect, lesser than what was there. When you've lost the nucleus of your side, you know what I mean? And I understand Notch's values at that time because they had to survive, because they'd been in the sticky waters and such like, but they got there, you know what I mean? As I said, so, but that's life. That's life. That's the way things go. That's the cards are dealt. We've got to play them. You know what I mean?
But your association with Notts wasn't ended, was it? Because you were involved with Lifeline, I think, when it were around.
Yeah, but that's the big thing. That's the big thing for me, which is wrong. But it's wrong in life as such. You've lost a career, but you've not got a lot of people there to help you get back on another career or another path. The PFA didn't want to know. They're saying everybody's got because of the ailments and that. But at the end of the day, you say to yourself, there's no people there saying to you, right, what are you going to do now? You're just left to your own devices. They think because you get a lot of money, that's you. That's not what life's all about. Life's all about still enjoying yourself and being able to do something. You know what I mean? But as I said to the chairman says, well, you can come and work part-time at the club. But the worst thing ever happened was that Jimmy came to see me and he offered me the job at Derby doing under 16s with him and Arthur Cox.
Oh, God, yeah.
And I turned it down. And he says, oof. And that he wanted me to go and do that, Jimmy. And that would have been a lifeline for me, really. I should have done that. But I never. You make decisions in life and that's it, isn't it? You know what I mean? So, and then as I say, I ended up saying to Jimmy, no, I can't do it because I've just had a boy was just born then. So, but as I say, I wasn't in a position to help in that respect because I was ill. But as I said, after that, it was a case of time. I said, I don't think I can give you the time, boss. She says, oh, you do this, do that, whatever. I never done it, and that was it. And then it never come back to me, you know what I mean? But otherwise, because the contacts Jimmy had then, you never know. You know what I mean? But it was good of him to came. He came to the house to see me 2 or 3 times after I broke my leg. He was one of very few that came to see me, and that's the big thing about football. In that sense, is that afterwards you think it's all glamour and all that, but when you're finished, there's not a lot of people want to know you or will get in touch with you and such like. Which is a sad thing, but that's life. That's the way life is in general. You know what I mean? That's the way life is in general.
You weren't doing the coaching with Derby for Jimmy, but you did go into sort of local non-league management. Arnold, you were at, and 1 or 2 others.
No, I was at Plessy for 9 years.
Yeah,
Plessy for 9 years first, and then I went to Arnold. I was at Arnold for 10 years. And then I had a couple of years at Carrollton. But no, I enjoyed it. But the same thing was that the attitudes change. It's all about money. It's all about this. How much am I getting paid before they start playing? They don't want to become better players. They don't want to become better players by working and training. They just want to say, well, what am I getting? And turn up and get the money. And that started getting to me a little bit. You know what I mean? I enjoyed it at Arnold because it was at Arnold with Billy Brindley.
Yes.
Billy, ex-Notchman, and that. It's a different... And you talk about camaraderie and crack, and the crack was absolutely brilliant. I remember Brendan Gunn was there, Brett Williams, Darren Davis, and a load of ex-pros, Eddie Thorpe. You know what I mean? And the crack was absolutely brilliant. And with young kids coming through who were learning for them, and they were in awe of them because Gunny was a European Cup winner and this, that, and the next thing. And it was great for us because we could attract better players, better younger players. You know what I mean? And that was very, very good. You know what I mean? And there's a couple of players that came through and went on to be seniors. As such, in a little bit of career in the senior level. So it was a little bit rewarding in that way. You know what I mean? But as I say, now you just take each day as it comes. You just keep smiling. That's all you've got to do, Paul. You know what I mean? That's the way I look.
And we managed to get the group, or a proportion of the group, back, didn't we? 2 years ago at Meadow Lane.
Yeah,
Kelly came
very
up
good
from
night.
and
Yeah.
I'd like to have got a few more, but it's difficult, and it was a difficult time for the club. But it was good to get those people back together again and reminisce on what was the best period in Notts County's history for 100 years, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I mean, I've been back a couple of times, and I've been a meal a couple of times. I met Dozie. Dozie was there. He's doing in Bournemouth somewhere. Mick and Charlie, they just lived on the road from me now anyway, so I see them on a regular basis. And I speak to Trevor now and again and that. As I say, it was enjoyable. It was enjoyable times. And as I say, it was good to get the players back and reminisce, you know what I mean, after that. Yeah. But that's the worst thing about football, to be honest with you, is that you become cocooned in your own little world. And when you've got to come out of that world, it's a different kettle of fish. Because people don't know how to approach you, because you think you're unapproachable or such like, or whatever. As I said, I'm doing this walking football now, and it's very enjoyable. I mean, at the end of the day, I got in there, and it was great because people didn't know who I was initially, and it was great, and they just accept you for what you are, and that's the way I love it. You know what I mean? I like that, and as I say, I got on with these boys. We have a good crack in that, and that's what it's all about, you know. But it's at the end of the day, getting this stomach off, trying to get a wee bit of fitness back and keep them fit at my level, which is no easy, but at the same time, you've got to try, because you've got to try.
Yeah. Did Don send you a complimentary copy of his book, or did he make you pay?
No, I paid for it.
Yeah, I paid for mine and all.
Yeah, I paid for it. I said, thanks, man. I paid for it. But not a lot of fellows in different class. And as I said, he was somebody that I held in high esteem as regarding what he achieved and what he did. But he could back it up, you know, because he could do it. If you put a tanner done in a corner, he put it on. 9 times out of 10, you put 10 balls down, you put 9 of them in there. Unbelievable. Pass it anywhere. The way he is pass. But the thing a lot of people don't understand is in football, because you've got your physique and such like, and your ability, but so you've got to use your brain, you've got to use your mentality as regarding getting into certain positions and be aware of what's happening. Be aware of what's happening and about you. And Jimmy you're always playing when you're even walking. You're still playing. You're still playing the game. Irrespective of whether you've got to go up the ball, you're still playing. Because that was the way he used to coach. Right, listen, and he used to stand with me and he goes, right, here we go, the ball's over there, come in here, walk in there. See the play developing, see the play stretching there, right? Just stop in there, right? Get there. And it was unbelievable how he did it. And 9 times out of 10, when you're playing a game, this is how it panned out, you know. But you're 2 or 3 steps ahead of you, because he'd be coaching you that anyway, and reading you into it and walking you into it. And you're only walking. It's like the walking football now. When I did a walking football now, you can't run, so you've got to walk. You've got to try and walk into positions. But you've got to try and move people just the same. And you're walking, and people are looking, and but you can't stand still. And that's the thing. A lot of people don't realise that in football you're moving all the time. You've got to be moving all the time, you know. But yeah, as I said, enjoyable, very, very enjoyable.
And the good news is, a few years on from those halcyon days, you're still moving around as well. What's your handicap on the golf course these days, Iain?
Oh, it's crap now. No, I'm not as good now, pal. My hands are starting to get to me a little bit. And I've got 2 new knees. I've had a back operation, so it's not the easiest. But as I say, that's why I'm taking this walking football up, just to try and get the joints moving and get the things going again. You know what I mean? So that I can get into it and lose a wee bit of weight, and then get back into the golf a bit better, you know. But that's the thing. But no, I've gone backwards a big bit in the golf. I don't play as much as I used to do, but I still enjoy it. Every time I go up home, I still have 2 or 3 games up when I play up home. You know what I mean? So it's all right. It's all right, Paul.
Yeah. I had around with Les Brad the other week or 2 weeks ago, and
Les
is looking very well. I have to say, at the minute he's looking, for 73, 74. He looks very well on it. Yeah.
He's struggling with that knee, though, isn't he? He's struggling with his knee. He went again to get his knee done.
Yeah.
That's the best thing. I've had mine for 20 years now, my 2 knees. Brilliant. Great. Never gave me any jump or anything, any problems. They're only supposed to last 10, 12 years, but I've had them 20 years and no problem. You know what I mean?
One of your nicknames, there were many. It was Crazy Legs, wasn't it? No one quite used to know which way they were going and where they were going. I always used to have a bit of banter with Paul Hart, because Paul Hart always said he used to have problems trying to deal with you. Particularly, was it a one game against Leeds?
Oh, aye, big Hart. Yeah, he stood and he tried to stand on my head. So he did. I went up for the ball with him and I fell down and I was on the ground and I just seen this book coming down. He was going to stand on my head. And it just moved and he stood over my hand. You know what I mean? A few expletives after that, you know what I mean? But in the second half with the last laugh because we won 2-1. And it got the sack. He nearly got the sack that game because I've came off and turned, gone down the line, crossed it, hard cook, volley, top corner, 1-2-1. And went in after the game, I can't remember, Alan Clapp was his manager, ripped into him. Because one of my tricks in a sense was when I turned and put the ball past them, as soon as they turned, I'd run across the back of him and just click their legs. And he went down like a sack of spuds. And the manager thought he'd thing me, but he didn't realise I had tripped him. But Big Hart, we used to have a good laugh about that one. You know what I mean? As I said that. But that's what I'm saying. That's just how what I'm talking about is regarding as a battlefield. You're on a battlefield. You've got to look after yourself. And that was why Billy Bonds was a different class, as I say, because at the end of the day, he said, listen to me, Macca. I says, listen, no problem. I says, but you kick me, I'll kick you back. I says, Billy, that's no problem. I said, you kick me, I'll kick you back. And after the game, it was brilliant because I knew he was coming in hard and fair. And there wasn't a problem. You know what I mean? Some of them were very nasty. You've got to be careful. And they would. I'm not caring what anybody says. And I don't care who's listening to this because at the end of the day, in football, you're on that field, it's a battle. It is a battle. And people will hurt you. If they want to hurt you, they will try and hurt you. I don't care who you are. And it's fact. And people will deny it all day long and everything, but it's a battlefield because they're out to win, whatever by whatever means they can. As simple as that.
Let's just finish. One or two of your teammates we've not mentioned, and let's just try and redress that so no one feels left out. I guess Maverick would be a phrase, and he listens to all of these, he watches these. And Maverick will probably be the best word to describe this guy. Huge talent. Rashid Harkouk. What was he like to have in and around the club and on your team?
The Arab, Rashid Arab. Rash is all right. Always right. Yeah, right, my son. You know what I mean? He's getting all this large and everything, and he come in. But he's the hardest shot I've seen, and he's only got a size 6 shoe. Aye, size 6. I'm like, Rash, how can you kick the ball like that? But he could rifle it. Yeah, he was a good player, Rash, and it's all right. I mean, he's got this front, he's all right, but he's a good lad, Rash, and this is what I'm talking about. You know exactly where you stand with people having your back and looking after you. If you need it, it's there, and the backup's there, and Rash is always one of them. He'd always back you up, and no problem. You know what I mean? Wouldn't they always agree with you, but wouldn't they always agree with you? But he could never understand what I said anyway, so he wasn't bothered.
That's Rash. Wand of a left foot. Paul Hooks. What was Hooksy like?
Hooksy was a character. He was a character. He would always try and outdo things and try to do little things in the dressing. He was a little Smithy. Same as little Smithy. He was always trying to wind people up. Hooksy. He's still the same now. I still keep in touch with him quite a bit. Hooksy, good for a drink that way. And he's still the same, yeah. We aye, man. We aye, Punnaburra. The Mackham. He's called him the Mackham. He loves that.
we've had him as a guest on here, and obviously, and he plays to this a little bit. You know, his English wasn't very good. He never understood, and all the rest of it. And we had him on for about 2 hours. Brilliant interview. I got TC Trevor Christie along as interpreter just in case we needed it, but his English was fine. Raddy Avramovich. What was Raddy like? Quality keeper, wasn't he? Quality keeper.
Yeah. Very, very quiet, very placid. But at the end of the day, he knew the score. I always remember the very, very first time he came, and whenever he had a problem, I know understand. His first day of training was a Friday. He came on the Friday. We were playing on the Saturday. I think it was at Mansfield. We were playing in the Friday, and we're up at Wilford, and it's a practice match as usual. Jimmy, and we're doing set pieces and that. And Jimmy's trying to explain to Raddy where to stand and where to go and this, that. This is what we're going to do, like that. And Raddy's going, I don't understand. And other lads, and Raddy's got his interpreter at the back of the goal. This big boy used to walk about with him, his interpreter, and Jimmy's going, this, what you go, those, catch this and throw it there. And Jimmy and Raddy's going, what do you mean? I don't understand. And he used to, but he did understand. He was just finding Jimmy up. And the lads are like, brilliant. That was his first day. You know what I mean? So it's good character, good banter on that as well. But he was very, very. He was another one, fitness wise and work ethic. I mean, I used to work with him after training every day, every other day, and he'd say, "You come work." I says, "Yeah." And then other days I would say to him, "You come and work a few balls," and he would show me the positions where he would be and where to place the ball. You know what I mean? In certain areas and certain things, and we would do little drills where we're looking to get into a position, and he'd say, "Right, you were there, I'd be here, and then you've got to think where you're going to put the ball for there," which was good from my point of view because I get into situations and just do it because I knew where the goalkeeper would be or where the position, roughly the goalkeeper at that specific time. So it was very, very good from my point of view, and it was good for him because he was getting the practice that he wanted. You know what I mean? So it was very good. But it was very, very work very, very methodically and very hard in his goalkeeping and his position and his fitness and that. He was fit as a butcher's dog. Raddy was. You know what I mean? Good lad, but very good. When his English became better, his communication became better. He was initially when he was there, it wasn't very good, so it was difficult for him to understand, especially it was like a League of Nations dressing room that we had. You know what I mean? You'd Irish, English, Scottish, you know what I mean? The languages were all over the place, you know, so. But it was, he was top man, Raddy, top man.
Sadly, no longer with us. But a key core player and a Notts man through and through from boyhood. Pedro, what was Pedro like?
Real one. Pedro was unbelievable. He always looked to show a hard front, but he'd a heart of gold. You know what I mean? And he was one of them that would always rebel, and he rebelled when Howard came in. He wouldn't mind me saying that. He did. He rebelled when Howard came in, and he wasn't going to do this. And Howard says, "Fine, no problem. Come back when you've got to change your attitude." And Jimmy backed Howard up. So he did do. You know what I mean? He'd 1 or 2 skirmishes in the training ground, Pedro, because he didn't like things. But he succumbed. He accepted it. As I was saying earlier, you've got to buy into what Howard was doing. It was very, very difficult initially because of the way he came across and the way he was putting it. But eventually it got through and it came through and Pedro succumbed to it and he became one of the lights. I mean, that's why Jimmy made him captain, you know what I mean? And at the end of the day, that brought the best out of him. And he started behaving himself off the pitch as well, a bit better.
As nicknames go, it's one of the best, isn't it? Gordon Mayer, Nightmare.
Nightmare.
Very quiet, but again, a wonderful left foot, yeah?
Oh, man, the wonder left foot. guy, yeah. The one that left, he was like a skeleton. You know what I mean? When you seen him, he was stripped off like he was like a skeleton, white as a ghost. Never liked a tan. You know what I mean? Never liked a tan. I'm still in touch with his missus. He's not very well at the minute. He's not very well. He's got some illness. But his missus just speak to her back and forward. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, he's still to the fore as such. But he went to Lincoln, didn't he?
Mm.
You see, they all left after that. When I was still signed, and there's still a year's contract left. But that summer they all left. They all went, and I never seen them really. You know what I mean?
Big friend of the show, and kind of your strike partner, and you kind of like 1 year you would be top scorer, another year it would be TC. Trevor, what was TC like?
Oh, TC, that's Tappin Trevor, that was him. His all his goals were tap-ins. I used to make them for him. He tapped them in at the back post.
Wait till tap-in Trevor. Wait till he hears that one.
You see him. Tap-in Trevor. I used to lay them on a plate for him. Beat the goalkeeper, get to the goal line and say, yeah, Trevor, there's another goal for you. See? That was how he scored so many.
Oh dear, tap in Trevor. And a guy that would have predated you and kind of saw Notts coming up through and played into the top flight. And it's interesting, Don does this. As fans, it was Rayo, yeah. I notice you guys always, Don does this, and I notice you do. You call him Raymond, don't you? Raymond,
yeah. That's his missus calls him Raymond.
Oh, is that what I knew there had to be a reason. I think Raymond.
Yeah, his missus calls him Raymond. I used to call him Irish. It was him that gave me the nickname the Cat.
Was it?
Aye, because we were playing up at Wilford. The game we were playing in a five-a-side, and a lot of five-a-side thing, and I went in goals, and they couldn't score, and the Irish going the cat, you know, in that Irish accent, that Irish lingo. There's the cat. So that's how I got that nickname. I played in goals in the five-a-sides, and they couldn't score past me. I was diving everywhere. You know what I mean? So, Raymond.
Two central midfielders, played an awful lot of games for the club. David Hunt and Mark Goodwin.
Hunty, yeah, he couldn't trap a cement back, Hunty, but he could work. He knew his job and he did very well. You know what I mean? And that was why, as I said to you, at the end of the day, you look at things and you look at players, and Hunty had his worth, and more than his worth, and he'd done a great job in there. And Goody was the same. You know what I mean? They worked hard for the cause. And that was the difference. And that's just what I'm saying. You had, maybe not going socially or whatever, but at the same time, when you go on the pitch, you work hard. And that's, you know what I mean? And that's, in a certain position, he knew his job, and he did that job. And he did that job to the best of his ability. He didn't frills and Hunty. He scored against Arsenal, didn't he?
Mm.
One game. He was good for set pieces and that sometimes. But as I said, he wouldn't create a lot by running past people or anything like that. But he'd stop people and he'd do the simple thing. And that was it. A Canty type of guy. Canty, this day and age, a Canty type player. You know what I mean? Just break things up, keep it simple. And that was a big thing. That was all part of the system and the setup that we worked on with Howard as well anyway. You know what I mean?
Now, we mentioned Gordon Mayer was a quiet man. Possibly this guy was even quieter. Phenomenal skill, but not on the face of it, a natural defender. Tristan Benjamin, what was Tris like? Was he? I think he roomed a bit with Trevor Christie, and TC said he wasn't necessarily as quiet when he was with hip in a room, but a lot of the time, Tris was quite, kept himself to himself.
Yeah, in company. And that's what I'm saying. He proved that, trying to get him to that function. He works in the buses now, in Nottingham. He did. I don't know where he still is, but
still does. Still does.
Yeah, but he wouldn't get involved You know what I mean? But I'll tell you what, you could never get him off his feet. You'd never move him as a fullback. He would never. Robertson, he was one of him and Pedro. Whenever they played right back against him, he hated it because he could never move them. They would never move. He would never. He would do his shimmies and such like, but they'd never move, and they would stay on their feet. He would never dive in. You know what I mean? And Benji was like that. He was always on his toes, and he's always there, and he's very, very quick. You know, but he was one of them that just was in his zone. He was in his own zone, Benji. You know what I mean? He was in his own zone, but he could play. He could play, and he was a happy-go-lucky guy. You know what I mean, Benji? But as I said, he's very. But that's the way. That's the way, as I said, that's the way he is. He wasn't very sociable and that. Didn't drink a lot. You know what I mean? So he didn't go socialise and such like. You know.
One of the guys that Jimmy and Howard brought in, it was in his long throw was unbelievable. It was so flat, wasn't it? The trajectory. Aki Lartonen, remember Aki?
Oh, I know. Speaking the English, Aki, the Finnish boy. Yeah. Yeah, he was the same, Aki. Strong. He was strong as an ox. You know what I mean? His thighs on him and that, and he was very strong. No, the best technically gifted, but the same thing again, played right back and such like and done a job. You know what I mean? Did his job to the best of his ability. You know what I mean? But he's not going to score you a lot of goals. He's not going to make a lot of goals, but he's going to stop a lot of goals. You know what I mean? That type of player. But he was strong, his strength. But that's again Jimmy. With scouts and international scouts or whatever, this guy comes in and you say to yourself, geez, so. And there was some guys used to come to games. Unbelievable, right? We're at Watford once, and there's this guy turns up. And he's got denim jumper, a sweat jacket and that on, and the long hair and everything. He's a Swedish boy. I come to see Jimmy. And this is at Watford, and we're going to play a game. Oh, Jimmy's welcomed them in. And the boy's going, oh, I played this, that, the next thing. And he's getting Jimmy a rigmarole. He says, yes, I seen you playing last Tuesday or something. I have asked you to come. You know what I mean? He's been over there seeing them. He's unbelievable. And they just used to turn up. Used to turn up for everywhere. Every walks of the gland, you know what I mean? Unbelievable, the one. Unbelievable. But they were just there. Jimmy, that's the kind of character that he was, in the sense of he never turned out to be anything, that boy, but you never know. But he used to get them in for a couple of days training. The number of players that you had, because it used to be a small squad, only 16, 17, a squad that we had. I think it was maybe 18 maximum that we had as a squad, because they were always using trialists in the reserve games. And that's what I noticed when I first came, in the sense of when I was playing for the reserves, when I first came, that I couldn't play in the first team, so I was playing the reserves and that, which I didn't mind. It was great. I really enjoyed it, but it was always trialists. You had about 4 or 5 trialists every game, because they never had enough to make the team up, to bring them in. But that was the way it was, and that was the way money went at that time. You see, Notts have never been a club that's had lots and lots of money. You know what I mean? And they've had this is what I'm saying now. It's very difficult because of what's coming through and the mentality they're coming through. The players, the younger players, don't want to become better. They don't want to learn. They don't want to wait. They want to be doing it, and they want to be earning the money right away. It doesn't work that way. You've got to learn your trade first. As you become an apprentice, you've got to learn your trade first. And as I say, you look at these England players, these boys, young boys are thrown in. Great ability. And have came through for the 12-year-old sort of thing. You know what I mean? And now they're earning fortunes at 16 and 17, 18. You say to yourself, that's no. They'll be finished at 22, 21. But they've got to look forward to. You know what I mean? And nothing to look forward to. And that was what I always look forward to. I always look forward to the next game. As soon as that one's finished, I always look forward to the next game. That one's finished, look forward to the next game and work for that. And that was one of the things Howard did. I said, it's always, right, that's what we're doing Monday, pump, Thursday, Friday, work on that team against that team. That's who we're playing. That's how they play away from home or at home. This is what we do, boom, and they would set it out accordingly. And that was where his forte. That was his forte, really. You know what I mean?
Iain, it's been an absolute pleasure. We've done over 2 hours.
Have you?
Absolutely brilliant. And as I said, Notts County's greatest ever team for the last 100 years. You were a core part of it. Yeah. And, you know,
Thank you very much, Paul. Thank you very much.
You've spoken about, and I would understand this now, as society has changed and players a lot of the time now, I can understand why in the modern era, will value their career by the amount of money that they earn and the security that it can bring when they have finished their career. But the reality is, I don't know a single footballer who frames their paycheck 10 years after they finish playing the game. You know, you'll have your mementos, you'll have your bits and pieces, you might have a shirt, whatever. No one frames a paycheck 20 years on after they retire. But you can, you know, in the pantheon of Notts County greats of the last 100 years, you're up there, you're in there, and you played in the most successful period of this club's history. Full stop. Full stop. You know, and my son is off camera. What is he? 23. So he's seen Notts playing League Two and the National League, yeah, and League One, yeah. I, at his age, watched you guys win at Aston Villa as reigning champions. We beat Villa all the time, didn't we? If I remember right, we beat them 3 times one season, didn't we? In the first.
They beat us 6-1. But I didn't play in that game.
Beat us in the cup, didn't they? They beat us in the cup. Yeah.
Mick had a nightmare. Mick Leonard had a nightmare. Yeah.
But the point was, we were competing on equal terms with the best in the country. You know?
Yeah. And you're only getting gubbed every week. The only teams that beat us were Man United, Liverpool. Yeah. That was the only team that gubbed us. 5.
Yeah.
They did it a couple of times.
Ipswich was a hot and cold, wasn't it? Because we played brilliantly with a fantastic goal.
And they beat us 6 once.
But yeah, they caught us cold, didn't they? After we'd started one season quite well.
But that game down there, when we beat them 3-1, when we scored that goal, there was 13 passes or something. That's what I'm talking about. The training the week before, we were working on that, and the training on the Thursday for the goalkeeper, passing, and you go on the Saturday and it works. And you say to yourself, it's unbelievable. You wouldn't think that, but that's what happens, and that's what Howard was all about. That's because that's what we did on the Thursday. That's what we were doing, passing, pass there against the cones. You know what I mean? Because you're not getting any movement, but that's that. Just simple, just a belief in your ability that you can pass the ball to somebody that can receive it, to pass it back to you, to move. Pass and move. That's what Jimmy was all about. Howard was all about the organisation side here. You know what I mean? Which he did very well. Obviously, to get to where he did and what he achieved was absolutely brilliant. You know what I mean? As I said, Jimmy was simple. Kiss, keep it stupidly simple. That's football. But people complicate it. Why? Because they think they can do better. And they make it complicated because they don't do better, they make it worse. And that was Jimmy's philosophy. Keep it simple. Keep simple things. You know what I mean? And that was it. That was all football was about for him. But at the end of the day, me personally, he was a one-off. I can't speak highly enough of him. He's a different class for me. I'm very glad and very privileged to meet him and work for him. You know what I mean? It could be a nasty piece of work at times, but at the same time, that's life, because everybody's got their bad points. Not everybody's 100% perfect. You know what I mean? So, but no, it was very, very, very enjoyable times and great times. And at the end of the day, I wouldn't have turned the clock back and change it, because at that time when I came down here, there was a lot of interest, but they couldn't sell me to a Scottish club because I had a bad record, getting bookings and this, that, and the next thing. So it was very difficult for me to go to a Scottish club. So that's why I had to come down south. You know what I mean? Which I don't regret. I never regret it. You know what I mean?
Well, you've made Nottingham your home now. Family are here. Delighted over the last 2 and a bit hours to have taken a trip down memory lane and Meadow Lane. Iain, thank you very much indeed for taking the time to chat to us, and I hope it's brought back a few happy memories for you as well.
No problem. Thank you very much, Paul. Thank you. All the best.